Hi, grade 6. This is a math lesson for lesson 7-5 on page 312 and 313, and also 314 as well. Highly suggest you look at the example problems on those pages first before we watch this video. One of the things to notice is on the bottom of 313, they show you a triangle in which they're trying to get you to realize that percents, fractions, and decimals can be the exact same number. You can change from one form into the other, and that's what this lesson's about. The first couple of problems are percents being changed into fractions, and then they have fractions being changed into a percent. So let's take a look at some of the problems that are on the board and how we can attack them. The first one I have on the board is 18.5%, and the question is, how do we change it into a fraction? Well, we know that percent means hundreds, so watch this. All I did is take 18.5 and put it over 100. It's a fraction now. But the issue is we've got a decimal number inside the fraction. We don't want to do that. Your book recommends that since you've got this one place value, you multiply the fraction by the number 1 in the form of 10 tenths. 10 tenths equals the number 1, and when we do that, we would get 185 over 1,000. In essence, all we're doing is moving the decimal point over one spot to the right. We're moving this decimal point over one spot to the right, and we're moving this decimal point. We don't see it, but we know it's there. We're moving it one decimal point to the right, and it's creating 185 over 1,000. At that point, we can divide both the top and the bottom by 5 to try and simplify this. And when we do that, we get 37 200ths, which is the simplest form of a fraction. So let's try this one here. 37.5 over 100. Let's multiply by 10 over 10. And when we do that, we're really just moving the decimal point over one spot on both the numerator and the denominator. Then let's divide by, I don't know, we could divide by 5, we could divide by 25. Either way, if we divide by 25, we get 40 on the bottom, and then on top we get, is it 15, I think? Yeah, 15, and then divide by 5 again, and we get 3/8 as our simplified form for that one. Let's move over to this one here. 5.2% would be 5.2 over 100. Let's multiply the top and the bottom by 10 over 10, and we get 52 over 1,000. Divide by 2, we get 26 500ths. Divide by 2 again, we get 13 over 250, and we're done there. Let's try the next one. 24.5. Divide by 100. We got to get rid of this decimal point, so we're going to be multiplying by 10 tenths. So in other words, just moving the decimal points over one spot. So I get 245 over 1,000. If I divide by 5, I get 200 on the bottom, and I get 449 on the top. And guess what? That's the simplified form for that. So far, we're following pretty much the same pattern of putting the number over 100 and then simplifying the fraction. Okay. What do we do down here? Well, we've got two decimal places, 25.75%. Well, the starting is pretty much the same. We got 25.75 over 100. But now you'll notice I got to move that decimal point 2 places over to the right. So instead of multiplying by 10 over 10, we really have to multiply 100 by over 100. And that's going to give us 2,575 on the top, and it's going to give us 10,000 on the bottom. I have to move the decimal point 2 places over, so I do the same thing on the bottom. I move it 2 places over. Now what? Well, let's try dividing by 5. That would give me 2,000 on the bottom, and it would give me 515 on the top. Let's divide by 5 again. I'm going to have 400, and I'm going to have 103, and we're done. That's in simplest form. Let's try with this next one. It's got the same issue. 555.25. Well, that's going to be 555 or 55.25 over 100, because percent means hundreds. We're going to multiply by 100 over 100, not 10 over 10, because we've got to move the decimal point 2 places, and we get 5,525 over 10,000 when we do that. Let's divide by 5. We get 2,000 on the bottom, and we get 1,105 on the top. Let's divide by 5 again. I get 400 on the bottom, and we get 221 over 400. At least I think we do. I better check that because I'm not positive I'm right. Oh, phew, I am. 221 over 400. Boy, it's cold in here this morning. Next one is a pretty easy one. There is a purple table on the middle of 314. The purple table on 314 says that this equals 2/3. So right off the bat, I've got my answer. Okay, but what if I did it by hand? It's a good skill to know. Isn't this really 66 2/3 divided by 100, just like before? Percent means hundreds. And isn't this really a division problem? Where let's take 66 2/3 and divide by 100. That's the same as multiplying by 1 over 100. And this right here would be 198 200/3. And the simplified form of this is still that 2/3 up here. 200 over 300 is 2/3. So let's try the same thing here, because this one's not on the purple table. So we're going to put 15 2/3 over 100. Then we're going to say 15 2/3 divided by 100 is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. I get 47/3 here times 1 over 100. That gives me 47 over 300, which is in simplest form. 47 300ths. It's just percent means hundreds, so we're going to divide by 100. Okay, let's come over here. A whole bunch more fractions. Percent still means hundreds, right? So we've got 82 1/4 hundredths. 82 1/4 hundredths means 82 1/4 divided by 100ths, or multiplying by 1 over 100, right? And 4 times 82 is 328, so that makes 329 over 4, or 329 over 400, which already is in simplified form. 4 times 82 is 328. 328 plus the 1 is 329. How about this one? Same procedure as before. Percent means hundreds. So I write 90 3/4 over 100. 90 3/4 divided by 100 is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. This is 363 over 4, which gives me 363 over 400, which is in simplified form. How about this one? Again, 75 3/4 over 100, because percent means hundreds. Then I think of this as being a division problem, because it is dividing by 100. Dividing by 100 is the same thing as multiplying by 1 over 100. This is 303 over 4 when I change this to a fraction, and that gives me 303 64 hundredths as my answer. Next one, percent means hundredths again. So we divide by 100, and 22 1/3 divided by 100 is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. This is 67 thirds, so I get 67 over 300 as my fraction. Okay, now we're facing all new problems. Now we're facing a situation where we're changing fractions back into percents. How do we do that? Well, there's a couple ways. Here's one way. Change this into a fraction that has 100 as its denominator. And you can use the cross multiply and divide by remaining number method. So 13 times 100 divided by 20. Or you can look at the pattern here, which is multiplying by 5, and we get an answer of 65%. Why? Percent means hundredths, right? So if I've got 65 over 100, that must be 65%. Here's another one. Okay, I can change this into a fraction that has 100 as its denominator. I can take 16 times 100 and divide by 25. That's one method. 16 times 100 divided by 25. Or I can look at the pattern here. This is a multiplying by 4 pattern. 16 times 4 is 64%, because that would be 64 hundredths. If I do that, 64% is my answer. This one's a little trickier. This one we can't really do the pattern method of looking for the pattern, because there is no whole number you can multiply 8 by to get to 100. So this is one where I'd have to take 1 times 100 and divide by 8. 1 times 100 and divide by 8. Now, there is another method for doing this. They have the answer in the middle of 314 in the purple table already. In the purple table it says that 1/2 is the same thing as 12.5%. It says so right there. But they also call it 12.5% as well. Either way, 1 times 100 divided by 8 is 12.5, and that's our 12.5%. But 12.5% is the same thing as 12.5. Okay, let's move on to this one. Again, think about changing this into a fraction that has 100 as its denominator. So I'd take 24 times 100 and I'd divide by 40. 24 divided. Let's do that method today instead of looking for the pattern here. Oh, I get 60. 21/40 is the same thing as 60%, because x in this problem equals 60. Let's go on to the next one. We need to change it into a fraction that has 100 as its denominator. So I would take 27 times 100 and divide by 30. 27 times 100 is 2700. Divide by 30, I get 90. So this must be 90%, because it would be 90 hundredths, and 90 hundredths is 90%. How about this one? I need to change it in a fraction that has 100 as its denominator. 7 times 100 is 700. 700 divided by 9 is, go 7 times, this thing's going to repeat like crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's going to be 77.7777777. So I got two choices here. I can write it as 77.7 repeating percent. That's one possible answer. Or 77 7/9%. Either one of those is an acceptable answer to that one. Because this is just going to keep repeating. It's 0.7 repeating. Okay, we're running out of room down here at the bottom. So I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff on top. So we have room. Solve some of these. How about 3/7? This one down here. We're going to write it up here. Let's change it into a fraction that has 100 as its denominator. 3 times 100 is 300, divided by 7. What do I get? I get a 4, and then I get a 2, and then I'm going to have to bring down a 0, 7. That's going to go into that. Wow. Well, you know, I could do it as a fractional answer, or I could do it as a decimal answer. 7 goes into 68 times. 7 goes into 40 5 times. Seven times. Oh boy, this seems like it's going to go on forever. Let's back up for a moment. Is there a way to turn this into a fractional answer? Yeah, there is. What if instead of bringing down this 0, I call this 42 6/7? Is that acceptable? Yeah, it is. See this 6 remainder right here? That's right before I brought down the 0. 6 over 7, 42 6/7. So we could call this 42 6/7%. That's one possible answer. Or if I round this, I could call this 42.9%. Either one of those would be acceptable answers, rounding to the nearest tenth. Oh, wait a minute. They want us to round to the nearest hundredth. The book says round to the nearest hundredth. So rounded to the nearest hundredth, this would be 42.86%. Okay, let's go to 3/16. 3/16. Again, I take the fraction and I turn it into something that has 100 as its denominator. 3 times 100 is 300. I divide by 16. 16 goes into this once. Bring down a 0. 16 goes into 40 twice. I get an 8. Bring down a 0. 16 goes into 80 exactly 5 times. Hey, it must be 12.5% for the answer to 3/16. 3/16. No, wait, that's not right, is it? No, I did something wrong there. Yep, I forgot that this is a 14 here. Goodness, silly goose. Start over. Sorry, that's wrong. That's wrong. 16 goes into 140. Let's try 8 times. Let's see what we get. 8, 4. I get 128. That's pretty good. That'll give me 12. Now we bring down that 0. 16 goes into that. How about 7 times? That would be 112. Oh, now it goes into 5 times with a remainder of 0. So it ends up, I'm sorry, it ends up being 18.75%. 18.75. Okay. Let's try 3/80. Our next problem right here. We're getting pretty long here. I think this will be our last problem for now. 3/80. How many hundredths is that? Well, let's take 3 times 100 and divide by 80. So we get 300 divided by 80. 80 goes into that. Let's try 3 times with a remainder of 60. Let's bring down a 0. 80 goes into 600. How about 7 times? 560. Bring down another 0. 80 goes into 400. Exactly 500 times. So that gives me an answer of 3.75%. 3.75%. Go through there. There we go. We take the fraction. We made it equal to x over 100. We solve for x, and x is our percent. Okay, I'm going to quit the last 2 problems. Thank you, 6th graders.